This morning I learned the meaning of the name of the prophet Haggai. I didn't realize. There's a word I'm very familiar with in Hebrew, which is repeated often during the year, and it's the word Hag. It has nothing to do with an old lady. It is Hag Sameach, which means Sameach is happy. Hag Sameach, happy celebration. And it's for the great religious feasts that were once celebrated in the temple. So you say it for Easter, and you say it for Pentecost, and you say it for what we're celebrating right now, Sukkot, the Feast of Booths. So they say Hag Sameach. And the prophet Haggai means a plural of celebrations, or celebrations, and the little I at the end is a transliteration of the Yud, and it means mine. So by adding that on, it says my celebrations. And who does my refer to? It's interesting, the word Ami, am, is people, and Ami, is my people. So I wonder if girls who are called Amy are aware of that. It means, and who's speaking? My people. Well, obviously from a religious point of view, it's God's people. God is speaking. And my Haggai means my celebrations, God is speaking, because God is speaking through a prophet. My celebrations. So that's interesting. And it's interesting that we have it at this time of the celebration of Sukkot, of the Feast of Booths, which celebrates and ponders the precariousness of our life, which is true of every one of us originally. We started off so tiny, a little fertilized ovum, hidden, even not awares of mom not awares of this little creature starting. And it kept growing from there, never to stop till today. And thanks be to God, still going. And going strong. So aware how fragile we were at that point. On the other hand, very protected. But very fragile. And how fragile we've been since. Imagine the day we were born, how fragile. How much care is given. And the Booths, the Feast of Booths, is the memory, the pondering of a people who remember how fragile their initial existence was after slavery in Egypt, spending 40 years in the desert in a place that's pretty hostile to life, the extreme temperature swings, the dryness, the scarcity of water, so essential for life. Look at this lake here, the most beautiful body of fresh water in the entire Middle East. Isn't that interesting that this was the place Providence chose for revealing so much goodness, such incredible bounty of goodness. I came to have life, that they have life in abundance. We're still waiting for the sun to beat those clouds, although we see some of the rays coming up there. You could say this is a dry, arid mountain, but that's not so true because the vegetation grows up to a meter high here sometimes and more. And the cows have grazed most of it. And it looks pretty desertic, even the rocks up there, but there's a lot in between the rocks. And the desert is much more bare and barren and desolate of life. And so living there with makeshift tents, it's good to remember how fragile we are. And actually that's part of the point of the text we have today, because it's calling the people to realize that their own efforts alone are very insufficient for happiness. For happiness in the sense of fulfillment. Not happiness in the sense of so-called happiness of drunkenness, so-called forgetfulness of reality through addictions and satiating our senses and our pleasures, but the real deep happiness of fulfillment. You know, all the books of the scriptures are about that, about pointing to the presence of God in our lives, or his absence and the consequences thereof. So they're a call to faith, to growth in faith. You know, we don't see the sun, but we know it's coming, or we can see some signs that it's there. And sometimes the signs are meager, scanty, slight, hardly noticeable. You need a sharp eye to detect it. And that's the eye of faith, noticing the Almighty's presence when sometimes it would seem he's far away, remotely distant from my real situation. Come light, come. We need the light from above. There seems to be a little bit of action there in that spot now in the center of the screen. I love the poetry of Haggai. The images used, they're so eloquent. Maybe we just take a second to look at those verses. He says, this people says the time has not yet come to rebuild the house of the Lord. So there are political reasons, issues with the Samaritans, and probably a deep lethargy in the hearts of the people to get a move on, shake a leg, get your act together, give God the recognition he needs and publicly in society. He doesn't need it. We need to give it to him if we want to have a truly balanced, healthy, social, political life. If we don't want to stick our head in the sand and think that we make everything happen. Well, anyway, let's look further on here at these beautiful words. Consider your ways. You have sown much but brought in little. You have eaten but not been satisfied. You have drunk but not been exhilarated. You have clothed yourselves but not been warmed. And whoever earns wages earns them for a bag with holes in it. Like total bummer. Total problem. Amazing. You know, that's one of the phenomena of present day life. People are so accomplished in so many areas. Probably never so many doctorates in world history. Probably never so many institutes of higher learning available to so many people like never before, not just to elite few. And yet we have countries with very high rates of suicide. Countries with an inability to commit personally to marriage. Like in Europe, it's Spain, Italy and Portugal at around 3% of the, three decimals of a percentage that are willing to do this each year. So it's great here at Magdalene. We celebrate lots of weddings, Christian weddings and even Jewish weddings here. And the will to get married, the commitment to get married, the preparation to get married, then there's another very big issue that's very important. But this zeal for life, this zest for life, this will to celebrate the deepest celebrations of our existence. And we have all this technical advancement and yet so much deep down personal frustration. And again, that speaks to the same issue, really. And yet the psalm line is so beautiful and consoling for us in these times of frustration. The Lord takes delight in his people. Like, I just saw a little picture as I was opening up the Facebook for this post, and a grandmother had posted a picture of a little baby, and she said, "I'm having a major cute attack." So she is just overwhelmed by the preciousness of her little grandchild, or grandniece in this case, I think. The Lord takes delight in his people. If parents and grandparents take delight in their little children and grandchildren, imagine God's delight in the human beings. And he saddens us when we're not on the right track, when we lose it. So there he sends Haggai, "Get my celebrations lined up so that you'll have your true happiness." The Lord takes delight in his people. How could he want anything but our joy and our fulfillment? The Alleluia line, I normally don't comment it, but it fits in so well here. "I am the way and the truth and the life." These offers, the way we're walking along this path. Now, if you're just to walk across country here, it wouldn't be that easy. When you have a path, it's marked out and we can walk quickly. Even with the Vimeo connecting to all of you guys all around the world. I am the way to negotiate a track through life. I am the way and the truth and the life. All very powerful symbols. And then we have Herod, and there we have Tiberius. It's good that we can see Tiberius, because Herod Antipas, this was his headquarters for Galilee. He was tetrarch of Galilee, and he had even eventually, let me see here what he says. So he's wondering who Jesus is. He was greatly perplexed. He heard about all that was happening, all the miracles, all the healings, and now the disciples are healing. Wow, what's going on here? We're in chapter 9 now of Luke's Gospel, and he was perplexed. And some were saying John the Baptist has been raised from the dead, and that'd be a difficult issue because Herod had him killed. So his conscience was still getting at him. We're coming close, I think, to spotting the sun before we finish, maybe. Some things impose themselves like a mountain in front of us. And it's hard for Herod to avoid dealing with this issue. This huge mountain has come up, and he's got to begin to face the facts. So who is this dude from Nazareth? He's in my kingdom. He's entered into the realm. He's appeared in my realm. He's wielding a lot of influence. He's an influencer. Some influences are dangerous. Young Cassius is a lean and hungry man. Such men are dangerous. So went Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. And there came a dangerous man in the realm, Cassius and Brutus. Et tu, Brute. 50 years ago, we were doing this play for our intercert examination in Ireland. We had started to study it for our intermediate certificate examination. It was 1971, and the exam was in summer of 72. And we learned about the character developments. Jan Cassius was a lean and hungry man. Such men are dangerous. So he was an influencer, and so was Jesus. And Haggai was an influencer, and God moved him to do that. And obviously Jesus was the Son of God made flesh. So the biggest influencer around are the saints and the prophets. And if you want to be an influencer, a lot of people have that title on their Instagram posts. They call themselves influencers. The biggest influencers are the saints. They're the ones who have lasting influence. Influence forever. Positive influence, upbuilding influence. What a marvel. And Herod kept trying to see Jesus. And he got to see him at the Passion only to laugh at him and ridicule him, make fun of him, and resolve a personal issue he had with Pilate because they both ganged up on Jesus. They were strange bedfellows. They didn't see eye to eye, but they came together to gang up on Jesus. So this was, Herod's appointment was being prepared in his self-centeredness. And let our appointment be prepared for Jesus in our generosity, in a desire for light, for truth. So there we say goodbye to Herod's Town now. And it's just been wonderful to have you along this morning. May the Lord bless you and hold you in the palm of his hand. See you later, alligators. Take that big mountain there. This is the southern cliff here of Mount Arbel.